Hi folks, today is the 20th of September 2019. I'm Abdul Hussain and I am back from a rather hysterical summer as a lot has happened since then. And while I was checking the social media and the political news, I've just seen I've seen a lot happen actually, and I just had to take a break from it all. But now that I'm back, I'm seeing all this hysteria over, well, a certain Israeli politician, as you'll see right now. Benjamin Netanyahu is at risk of losing his position as the dominant, well, Prime Minister in Israel. And there has been some reaction over to the whole event. And while some of it, okay, I understand there's some positive reaction to that. And well, by positive I mean they're gleeful with the fact that he's losing that position. Some are more skeptical as to what the future holds with regards to Israel and how that will change, well, in regards to welfare of Palestinians and so on. So we're gonna have to take a look into that today. And the title for the video is, well, as you see in the top left hand corner, Israel, Netanyahu may take the L, but so what? Well, we'll see. We're going to start digging into that. So, first article that we're going to dig into is Weaken Netanyahu's offer of unity government rebuffed by rival Benny Gantz. Now, because Netanyahu is desperately clinging on to power, he still wants to remain politically relevant by forming a coalition government with Benny Gantz, and they both worked together, I believe, at one stage. But now they went separate ways to become political rivals, at least at face value. But the thing is, as it says here in the Yahoo news article, which is basically from Reuters, Israel's weakened Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu saw his offer on Thursday of a coalition with the strongest political rival swiftly rebuffed after failing to secure a governing majority in a tight election. Netanyahu's surprise move was an abrupt change of strategy for the right-wing leader. Benny Gantz's rejection of this offer could spell weeks of wrangling after Tuesday's election, which followed an inconclusive national ballot in April. The Gantz's centrist Blue and White Party emerged from the second round of voting this year, slightly ahead of Netanyahu's Likud party, but lacking the numbers in the 120-member parliament to form a ruling bloc. Netanyahu, Israel's longest-serving leader, said in a video clip in which he urged Gantz, the country's former military chief, to meet him as soon as today, that he had pledged during the election campaign to form a right-wing Likud-led government. But to my regret, the election results show that this is impossible, Netanyahu said. Benny, we must set up a broad unity government as soon as today. The nation expects us, both of us, to demonstrate responsibility, and that we pursue cooperation. Responding to Netanyahu's call, Gantz made no mention of the PM, and he said himself he would head a liberal, quote-unquote liberal coalition. Political shorthand for one excludes Netanyahu and his allies. Gantz said Israel was eager for a unity government to end the political uncertainty. And then the whole story it's quite long. It's quite a long read actually. So they say story continues. So yeah, I actually suggested kind of reading it, but if you read further into the article here, what's noteworthy here, excuse me for that, but as you can see here in the second part of the article, the campaigns, it says now differences. The campaigns run by Netanyahu and Gantz points to only differences on many important issues, and an end to the Netanyahu era would be unlikely to bring about significant changes in policy on relations with the US, the regional struggle against Iran, or the Palestinian conflict. Now, to be honest, that's the view I actually take with regards to what Netanyahu's end of his political term would mean. Because if you look back at all the past events, which I believe, where are we? Israel, 50 years of occupation abuses from Human Rights Watch, and this article actually lists all the political moves that Israel has done over the years, starting and it just goes straight into it. 50 years after Israel occupied the West Bank and Gaza, it controls these areas through repression, institutionalized discrimination and systematic abuses of the Palestinian population's rights, Human Rights Watch said today. You can read all of this, and it just gives a brief but somewhat lengthy breakdown, lengthy in a good way, by the way, breakdown as to what Israel has done over the years. It goes back before even Netanyahu was the Prime Minister. So, do you really? The question has to be asked: does anyone think that these changes would mean something? Well, in terms of bring any positive changes for the welfare of Palestinians and so on. Most of them, some of the people, some of the people just don't see any positive changes happening, rightly so, because they haven't seen much change, if anything. So I can't see it myself. Others have not seen it, as you'll see later on. But that's it. That's my take on the whole situation. But let's just carry on, because some of the articles on some of the views, some of the posts I've seen, trying to put a more positive, gleeful spin, which I disagree. Netanyahu, I'm gonna go. I went straight into the next article. But here's an article on the Daily Beast by Noga Tarnopolsky called "Netanyahu Lost, His Enemies Won, but Who Can Govern Israel?" And you read it into this, I'll read it. How? Yeah. To be honest, I'm just looking at this article right now. I already had a look at this before I was filming this video, but the thing is, I can't see much positive, much in the way of positivity coming out of this, regards to what happens. But it talks about how Netanyahu is going to be the biggest loser of the lot. But other than that, it just also talks about how Netanyahu also criticised Avigdor Lieberman as well. So not much. It's literally just talking about what they think of the whole situation. So you can read that yourself. I can't be bothered breaking that down right now, especially when it's 2:35 right now in the morning. So, well, or the night as one should say. But yeah, here's another article from DW talking about how Benny Gantz rejects Netanyahu's unity government proposal. Again, you can read this in your own time, but it's just, well, actually, that's quite short, so I'll read it for you. So anyway, the Israeli PM Netanyahu's offer of a unity government was rejected on Thursday by Benny Gantz, who is the former army general. Moshe Yaalon, a senior leader from Gantz's centrist Blue and White Party, announced, "We will not enter a coalition led by Netanyahu." Instead, Gantz expressed his wish to become PM, and if Netanyahu moves aside, we'll have a unity government. So clearly they want him gone, at least officially, because Netanyahu's tainted goods by looks of this political scene. So they kind of want to wash their hands off him, to be brutally honest with you. But anyway, let's carry on. If Netanyahu moves aside, we'll have a unity government, announced Gantz's second in command, Yair Lapid. In order to make a unity government, you don't come with spin and blocks, said Gantz on Thursday. I intend to establish a wide liberal unity government. An ally of Netanyahu, David Bittan, responded by saying that everyone will need to get off their high horse to prevent elections for a third time. Blue and White's desire for a unity government under their terms will not work. And the Israeli president, Reuven Rivlin, I may have butchered that name, who is responsible for deciding the next PM, announced that he'll start consultations on Sunday to decide who should form the next government. Rivlin will then meet with all parties voted into parliament before choosing someone to form a government. And then carries on to say that Netanyahu had proposed forming a unity government following Tuesday's indecisive election, saying the election results left no other choice. In a video message, the Israeli PM conceded that there was no way he would be able to form a right-wing government after the second general election of the year ended in deadlock. During the elections, I called for the establishment of a right-wing government, Netanyahu said. But unfortunately, the election results show that this isn't possible. He then said that he opposed going to a third election and then urged Gantz to form a broad unity government today. After that, it then says that Gantz had backed the idea of a good, desirable unity government, but had previously ruled out entering into one with Netanyahu, who faces possible corruption charges. The 69-year-old, Israel's longest-serving leader, has denied any wrongdoing. Tuesday's election marked the first time Israel held two votes in 1 year. The ballot was called after Netanyahu's right-wing Likud party failed to win enough votes to form a coalition following the April elections. And while the official results of the repeat poll have not yet been announced, Israeli media has reported that the Blue and White Party has 33 out of 120 parliamentary seats, and the Likud has 31. So as it says here, to summarise the whole thing, Benny Gantz wants no part wants nothing to do with Netanyahu, at least officially, in terms of forming a government, as he's already got a bad reputation with corruption charges. And not too long ago, I believe Natalie Portman also spoke out against Netanyahu, but So there's that too. Well, that's that. Okay, what next? Oh, here's a little opinion piece. I'll read that for you. But most of the articles are going to probably say that they've got, to be honest, like I said, there's going to be a lot of opinions on this. But here's another article from the Irish Times. Their take on this is that Netanyahu lost but nobody won. And they think that, as things stand, the only way of avoiding political paralysis is for Netanyahu to leave the stage. So, as it starts off with, okay, let me say that again. The article starts off with the following. Benjamin Netanyahu lost, but nobody seems to have won. That's the only firm conclusion to be drawn from Israel's second election in 5 months, which has left the politics of Israel even more firmly deadlocked than before voters went to the polls on Tuesday. With almost all votes counted, the Likud party trailed the Blue and White, led by Gantz, by 2 seats in the 120-member Knesset. The Prime Minister's right-wing bloc has 55 seats, which is far short of a majority, but Gantz, even though his party emerged as the biggest single bloc, also lacks a clear route to power. As expected, the position of kingmaker is occupied by Avigdor Lieberman, a right-wing security hawk and staunch secularist, whose refusal to prop up a Netanyahu administration early this year in a dispute over privileges according to the ultra-Orthodox, a key constituency for Netanyahu, blocked a return to office for Israel's longest-serving PM. And yet Netanyahu acknowledged on Tuesday that he'd be unable to form a right-wing coalition when he called on Gantz to sit down for discussions on a unity government. That was no doubt partly to a tactical move to avoid all the blame for a third election, and Lieberman himself has called for a secular unity government. But however, the Blue and White's leadership has made clear that they did not consider coalescing with Likud while Netanyahu remained as leader. And perhaps, well, there's a quote here saying, unless Lieberman shifts his position, then the only way Israel can avoid ongoing political paralysis is for Netanyahu to leave the stage. But continuing from the article, perhaps the most important breakthrough was that of the joint list of Arab parties, whose 13 seats lifted it to third place and suggested that Netanyahu's shameful attempts to demonize Arab Israelis during the campaign backfired spectacularly. The joint list is unlikely to join a government, but it could conceivably become the lead party of opposition. All eyes are now on President Reuven Rivlin, and if he invites Gantz to lead coalition negotiations, the ex-head of the military could string out the process beyond the 3rd of October, the date on which the Attorney General is due to announce whether Netanyahu is to be indicted on corruption charges. So far, Likud has held firm in its support for Netanyahu. However, his legal troubles and his increasing desperate attempts to cling to power and the evaporation of his aura of invincibility in recent months have left Netanyahu a diminished figure. When asked about his position this week, his close ally Donald Trump pointedly remarked that the US's relationship was with the State of Israel and not any one individual. And then as that big quote, and basically the article ends with that big quote here. So, unless Lieberman shifts his position, then the only way Israel can avoid ongoing political paralysis is for Netanyahu to leave the stage. That would be good for Israel, whose reputation and democracy he is damaging further with every week he remains in office. Okay, this article, from what I can glean info from, says that Netanyahu is basically tainted goods. Again, I think that that the removal of Netanyahu would be good for Israel, and to be honest, they would be right, because the last thing, from a public perception perspective, the last thing Israel needs is Netanyahu. But even though we all love the folks, especially those on the pro-Palestinian camp, know what Israel has been up to for several decades, more or less since the country's official inception. So, regardless of what happens here, there's obviously going to be skepticism in regards to what the future will hold for Israel and its neighbouring states. They already have issues. Israel has issues, obviously, especially what's going on here. And then you've got Palestinians and its neighbouring countries, and then you've got Israel with the US and their plans for the Middle East. So that's going to be one hell of a crisis, to be honest. So that's all I can say on this article. And what else is there? Now this one's an interesting article. It's from a publication called the Plus 972 magazine, which is in reference to the International Dining Code for that place. And the article is called "The End of the Netanyahu Era Doesn't Mean the End of the Occupation," and starts off with a nice subheading: "If Netanyahu is replaced, things might actually get worse for the Palestinians." A view which I actually, I'd say more in line with than some of the more optimistic articles and views on this, but anyway, I'll just read this one for you, seeing as it's short enough for me to read it, so I'm not fussed. 241. Alright. As election results started pouring in Tuesday night, one could hear a sigh of relief, and even some cries of joy, which I've seen myself on social media, among Israelis who identify with the centre-left. According to near final results, the right absorbed a serious blow. Its voter imitation campaign failed to deter Palestinian citizens of Israel from going to the polling stations and may have actually backfired, giving the joint list additional mandates. And meanwhile, the Zionist left parties held on to the same number of seats as in the previous election. The Netanyahu era is probably coming to an end. His options are limited. He might join a unity government with blue and white, which means the latter would backtrack on its campaign promise to not sit with him. His own party might oust him, or there might be a third election. In any case, he won't be able to prevent the Attorney General from issuing criminal indictments against him. He'll soon be forced to step aside. It's like an old man clinging on to life. Well, he's got a few seconds of that left. But anyway, this is no small matter, given political patterns in Israel over the past decade. Excuse me. The departure of Netanyahu might signal a shift in a new direction. We might be seeing the last days of a decade-long Trump-like style. Comparing everything to Trump's like comparing everything to Dark Souls. But okay, we might be seeing the last days of a decade-long Trump-like style of leadership based on racist rhetoric towards Palestinian citizens, left-wing non-government organisations, the media, and the judicial system. This is indeed a reason to rejoice. However, the occupation is not going anywhere. Israeli military control over the day-to-day lives of millions of Palestinians in the West Bank, the siege on Gaza, and the structural discrimination against hundreds of thousands of Palestinians in East Jerusalem are all here to stay. None of these three aforementioned groups were allowed to vote for the government that decides their fate. Likud, which is likely to play a central role in the next government, with or without Netanyahu, will not end the occupation or the siege, and neither will Avigdor Lieberman, a settler who has historically incited against Palestinians, nor will Blue and White, a party run by a group of former Israeli Defense Force generals who presided over the occupation, and who have already made a career out of planning to bomb Gaza back to the Stone Age. Yes. See? I bloody... kind of, yeah. I got nothing else to say about that. But anyway, let's carry on. The end of the Netanyahu era doesn't mean the annexation of the... does not mean the annexation of the Jordan Valley or the settlement of Kiryat Arba, which the Prime Minister promised in the last few days of his campaign. But it certainly is not the dawn of a new peace process. Far from it. Okay, that I kind of disagree with for now, but alright. The occupation not only not going anywhere, but might actually become even more deeply entrenched, and apart from the joint list, not a single party in these elections offered any solution for ending the occupation. As Marin Rappaport previously wrote, Jewish rule and supremacy throughout Israel-Palestine has become so thoroughly etched into the political consensus that it's actually fracturing the right, which has lost its unifying ideological... I can't even pronounce that word. Sorry. has lost its pillar, basically. Right now I'm a bit... But anyway, in spite of this, we could be entering a new phase in the way the international community treats Israel. Liberal forces such as the Democratic Party in the US, and particularly its voter base, who have become more critical of Israel's occupation policies, might mistakenly see the fall of Netanyahu and the rise of the so-called moderate, quote-unquote, Blue and White Party as a sign that things are about to change. They might be fooled into thinking this so-called New Israel deserves a second chance at peace negotiations. That would be bad news for Palestinians outside of international pressure on Israel. They have very little leverage. Meanwhile, Israelis prefer to maintain the status quo. Trump has postponed the unveiling of his deal of the century until after the elections, and will likely aim to further entrench Israel's control over the occupied territories, while trying to buy off Palestinian resistance with financial benefits, and normalizing relations between Israel and Arab countries. These developments will only embolden Israel to commit further human rights violations and war crimes. And while we celebrate the possible end of his rule, we must continue to remind the world about the silenced voices of our political environment. Millions of Palestinians living under Israel's boot are not going anywhere, and it's our responsibility to put an end to that reality. So, one of many publications here has taken a more negative, more pessimistic view of the future of Israel after Netanyahu, and that's the more rational view from what I think and from what I can see. Because remember when I brought up an article about the history of war crimes that, occupation abuses that Israel has committed. He literally has, which Human Rights Watch has covered a lot here, so I've mentioned it once, so I'm going to mention it again here. But that's literally all the articles and content that I want to talk about or bring up here with regards to what's going to happen when Netanyahu ends up leaving his position as PM. But before I go, well, actually, there's two more articles. Here's one. Yeah, I forgot something, because I always forget something. Mondoweiss has this article here, which is written by Don Johnson. Media rules explained. Mention Israeli slaughter and Palestinian children in the same breath. Kiss your career, goodbye. Many years ago, I knew a self-deluded entrepreneur who claimed to have invented a compression algorithm that could take a novel and reduce it to a few words. Well, anyone could. Just throw away most of the words. Here is War and Peace, Prince Andre, Pierre, the Battle of Borodino, Freemasons. The trick is in decompression. You can't actually reconstruct an entire novel from a few words. My acquaintance thought you could. My acquaintance thought you could, and he was wrong. Also, I thought until this week. It turns out that with just two words that seemingly refer to the actual crimes of two people, you can reconstruct the entire history of European anti-Semitism. Okay then, the reason why I chose this article is, well, you'll see here, there. But anyway, I'll carry on reading this one. The educated man who demonstrated the use of this decompression algorithm earlier this week is Matt Seaton. Observe the master at work. On Monday, Matt Seaton, an editor of the New York Review of Books and earlier at the Guardian and the New York Times opinion page, laid down the law in response to a tweet by Ali Abunimah. This one gets reported for blood-libel anti-Semitism. Oh yeah, great. Everyone's favourite word here, or term. Bye-bye, Ali. So, Ali Abunimah must have said something really terrible. Judge for yourself. In response to the Israeli election, where Gantz's party won more seats than Netanyahu's, Ali said this was to celebrate. He'll be replaced by another cold-blooded butcher of Palestinian children. His replacement represents precisely zero progress for Palestinian rights. Okay, as was quickly pointed out by numerous folks, he's right. Netanyahu and Gantz are both responsible for those deaths, but Seaton doesn't dispute those facts. So where's the anti-Semitism? Fortunately, Seaton, who by his own reckoning is highly educated in these matters, decided to respond. You're probably not asking in good faith, but act as if you are. Butcher, in a Jewish or Muslim context, invokes ritual slaughter. Children, added to that, refers to the medieval anti-Semitic myth, the blood libel of Jewish ritual sacrifice of Christian children. It's a completely obvious trope, familiar in similar forms from scores of anti-Semitic cartoons depicting Jews as bloody child killers. That comes under the IHRA definition as making mendacious, dehumanizing, demonizing, or stereotypical allegations about Jews. If you don't know the tropes of anti-Semitism, then you don't understand anti-Semitism. And if you don't care to take trouble to know them and recognize them, then it probably means you don't actually care about it. That term. So, as his questioner pointed out, it all comes down to two words: butcher and children. That thread is full of folks who try, with varying degrees of politeness, that gradually shade into ridicule, to point out the absurdity of this argument to Seaton. He won't have it, and he knows what he knows. Sure, both of them might be war criminals, Netanyahu and Gantz, that are guilty of killing hundreds of, let's just say, Palestinians who are not yet adults. One of these two war criminals might yet again become PM. Seaton doesn't bother to dispute it, but what he cares about is this. Many times in European history, innocent Jews were falsely accused of ritual slaughter of Christian children. So because of this, two officials in self-proclaimed Jewish state actually are guilty of killing them. You can't use the word slaughter, and you can't use the word children near the word slaughter, because only a vicious anti-Semite would ever do such a thing. Okay, alright, whatever. So it's a trope. If you want to criticise the premature deaths of not yet fully grown Palestinians caused by the actions of officials of a particular state, you had better do it in a way that you had better do it in a way that avoids using any word ever used in a false accusation against Jews by anti-Semites. So basically, you have to toy around the language and euphemisms to... Okay, no. Carrying on, this is going to be difficult, and the problem is that anti-Semites often did accuse innocent Jews of terrible crimes. So what are you supposed to say if someone Jewish actually commits a war of crime in reality? Incidentally, as someone said pointed out, here's Ali Abunimah criticising Obama and his aide Ben Rhodes for helping the Saudis, wait for it, slaughter Yemeni babies. Is there no end to his vicious trope usage? Is that why you and Obama helped your non-ally Saudi Arabia slaughter Yemeni babies? Seaton has dug himself in so deep, only a very big man will be able to apologise for it at this point. He may convince himself that he is simply more educated and sensitive than his Twitter critics. The larger point is this: look at his career. This man is a gatekeeper. If you want to know why anti-Palestinian racism in Americans for Israel is never called out, while anti-Semitism, both real and imagined, in parentheses, is often made central in discussions of Palestinian rights. Look at Seaton's mindset. How long can one criticise Israel in the terms it deserves before someone claims that the criticisms are anti-Semitic? Excuse me. And once that happens, the subject of Palestinian human rights simply vanishes as if by magic. Look at all the people of colour in the past few years who are accused of anti-Semitism because of their stance on Palestine. Linda Sarsour, Tamika Mallory, Ilhan Omar, Alice Walkers, Elijah Cummings and Mark Lamont Hill. There are quite a number of them, though there is some justice in the case of Walker. Now try and name someone on the pro-Israel side who is arguably guilty of anti-Palestinian bigotry and has been the centre of controversy because of it. Just look at the NYT, which has published 4 pieces defending Israel's shooting at Palestinian demonstrators last year. Where was the controversy over that editorial decision? Nowhere, so far as the mainstream press is concerned. When you see Matt Seaton's attitude, you get a glimpse into the thinking behind this glaring bias. Okay, quite an interesting article as a whole, and this basically covers the basics of anti-Palestinian bias in the mainstream media, people who work for the conventional MSM place. But there you go. So that's the last article I want to cover on the Netanyahu story. But so that's done. So I'm glad all that's been covered. But once all that has happened, Armenia announces it'll open an embassy in Israel. Great timing here. So it's pretty much Israel praises Armenia for doing this and all that. So that's all you need to know about that. But it's the article's on the Jerusalem Post, as you can see, and as you've seen in the start of this video, the show notes cover all of that. Well, has all the links to all the articles that I've shown here. And that's that for the moment. But I've been saying that several times. This is literally off the cuff, but I only have bullet points in my head. But remember when I said that there are a few people who are, well, gleeful about Netanyahu leaving, well, or is going to leave probably. One of them's like, oh, Netanyahu is yesterday's man, rejoice. My reaction is, hold your horses, madam. So there's that. Then we have this post by Sarah Wilkinson, which I found the article from. The Mondoweiss article that talks about media rules, explain and how if you mention Israeli slaughter on Palestinian children in the same breath, you can kiss your career goodbye. And some of the views mentioned here, basically what they're trying to say is that, well, including Sarah Wilkinson herself, is that Ali Bunima is actually right, in the sense that regardless of what leader is installed in Israel, not the status quo or the welfare of the Middle East in general isn't going to change for the better. Someone was saying one of the comments here from Shams Suleiman, on here that is, absolutely right. There's no good pig and bad pig. So here's a comment from Kerry Dean Fitz II saying that I said the same thing a few days ago on Facebook. And then Kevin Smith here says that unfortunately, Sarah, he's no doubt very, very right. So yeah, this is basically views expressed here that indicate skepticism over the change of Israeli leadership. But that's all I have to say on the matter, and on everything else with regards to the future of Israel and the future of the Middle East in general, especially Palestine and the welfare of the Palestinians. So on that note, just before I actually officially sign off, every single post, every single web page will be posted here. Well, actually, as you can see, it's actually been posted already. But on that note, if you want to look through the articles itself, you can do so on your own time by just taking the time to look at these links and type them out. So that's it. That's all I have to say on the matter, and it's great to do a political video once again, as I've just taken a lot of time out to just recuperate myself. But it's I've enjoyed doing this. So, but I would like to thank anyone who's actually watched this video from start to finish, or watched me struggle to string a few sentences or words together whilst doing so. Well, making this video. But that's it. I'm going to sign out now. So, sayonara.